Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Trumbore with your nightly review for Wednesday, March 27. And it's 4:01 p.m. Eastern Time. Dow Jones finished down 33 points to 14,526. S&P 500 once again failed to hit an all-time close. Reminder, that's 1565. It closed at 1562. Down about 1 point. 4 days in the last 10. I've been tracking this. My little cheat sheet. We've closed between 1560 and 1563. NASDAQ finished up 4 points to 3256 despite $9 declines in the shares of both Apple and Google. Tokyo finished up 0.2%, London down 0.2%, but Paris, Frankfurt, Madrid, and Milan all saw their stock markets lose 1%. Greece lost 4% today. Gold closed at $16.04, up $9. Oil was at $96.50. And the 10-year Treasury, once again, was a safe haven. The yield is down to 1.85%. And today being Wednesday, it's Bull Bear Day from Investors Intelligence. The bulls came in at 49.5. These are the investment newsletter writers. And the bears at 19.6. And again, that's a contrarian indicator. Back to Europe and the bond markets there. Italy had a very disappointing auction. The yield on its 10-year is back up to 4.75%. Spain is at 5.05. Granted, not the 7.75 from last summer or the 6.75 in the case of Italy. But the trend is not good. Greece's 10-year is back up to 12.9%. And Slovenia, possibly the next target, its 10 years at 6.78%. Not good. I get a kick out of those who say Cyprus doesn't matter. It does. How much? There isn't a person alive who can answer that yet. But what we do know is there is no European Union banking order centered around a single Bernanke-like figure. It's not Mario Draghi. And until there is, you'll have the risk of contagion. Cyprus is very important to Greece. That's why the Greek market was down 4% today. That would have been about a 550-point Dow decline. Italy has no government, none, at a critical time. Spain is basically in free fall with 27% unemployment. 27% unemployment, that, you cannot repeat that enough. Slovenia is in crisis. And essentially there is little growth anywhere in the entire 17-nation Eurozone or the 27-nation European Union, including in Germany. The May Day pictures aren't likely to be pretty in parts of Europe, especially the southern tier. And if you own a large U.S. multinational, and this has been my main point, with a big exposure to Europe, well, just be prepared for more Ford Motor type bad news on European operations. So in Cyprus, the banks are reopening tomorrow, Thursday, amid heavy security. Aside from limiting daily withdrawals, Cypriot depositors will be limited to credit card transactions of up to €5,000 per month and taking a maximum of €3,000 of banknotes out of the country per trip under new capital controls. While the capital controls are designed to expire after 7 days, people with knowledge of the matter, told the Financial Times the government would continue to renew the curbs on a weekly basis for as long as necessary. Otherwise, whatever money is left in the banks will fly out of Cyprus, said a source from their central bank. As part of the new curbs, Cyprus will not allow any checks to be cashed and will severely limit the amount of money that can be transferred abroad. Cypriot importers will be allowed to pay for goods only after showing supporting documents. If you're a Cypriot student studying abroad, you can receive only up to 10,000 euro a term, and it has to be transferred by the immediate family. Other details could easily take weeks. Basically, the central bank governor and finance minister have been given permission to do anything they want. The Wall Street Journal reports capital restrictions pose a threat of economic strangulation in Cyprus and are expected to stay in force until a memorandum of understanding, still to be agreed between the Eurozone International Monetary Fund and the island, comes into force. EU sources said that memorandum might not be ready for approval until the third week of April at the earliest. It's not known how long funds above 100,000 euro will be frozen. Large depositors at the island's largest bank, Bank of Cyprus, could lose as much as 40% on their deposits above the 100,000. Large uninsured depositors at the second largest bank, Laiki, might only see 20% of their money above 100,000 returned, and they might be waiting several years before being paid back. Central Bank President Dimitriadis said that a special administrator would be appointed to oversee both the winding down of Laiki and the merger of its healthy assets into Bank of Cyprus. The Bank of Cyprus chairman submitted his resignation, or he was fired. Dimitriadis, the central bank governor, said, "We are in no position to give you the exact amount, but it's going to be 40%, basically." The losses will affect some 19,000 deposit holders at the Bank of Cyprus who hold 8 billion in uninsured, 8 billion euro in uninsured deposits. Uninsured savers at Laiki will again lose most of it. Finance Minister Michael Sarah said, realistically, very little will be returned. Thousands of jobs will be lost in the banking sector in Cyprus. Thousands of small businesses will go under. Fergus McCormick, head of sovereign ratings at DBRS, told Bloomberg, "During the current period of low to no growth in Europe, it is certainly possible that a run on Cypriot deposits could spread in spite of existing or future controls on capital." At least 1,600 Greek shipping, trade, and tourism companies headquartered in Cyprus are threatened with closure. Greek firms that held deposits in Cyprus were unable to meet a deadline this week for paying taxes in Greece. So Greek government revenue will not be as projected. So how will Greece meet its euro bailout obligations? In Italy, Democratic Party head, that's the Democratic left, Pierluigi Bersani, was rejected by leaders of Beppe Grillo's five-star anti-establishment movement, after their talks between these two parties were broadcast live on the internet, Vito Crimi, head of 5 Stars contingent in the upper house or the Senate, said the decision for the Senate was to vote no to a Democratic Party confidence vote for a government led by Bersani. Remember, you need confidence votes in both the lower house, which Bersani controls, and the upper house, the Senate. You need both. And Bersani doesn't, he's like 35 seats short in the Senate. He needs a coalition partner. The refusal by 5 Star by Grillo means Bersani will probably have to strike an alliance with Prime Minister former Prime Minister Berlusconi. But Bersani has said he's never wanted to do that. Bersani did say to Crimi of Grillo's party, "Believe me, only an insane person would want to govern at this moment. Let's get this straight. I am ready to take on an enormous responsibility, and I'd ask everyone to take a small part of it, period." The reason why it was on the internet is because 5 Stars campaigned for more transparency in government. That wasn't necessary, though. So Bersani was given a mandate to form a new government by 87-year-old Italian President Giorgio Napolitano. Bersani and Napolitano are getting together tomorrow. Napolitano needs to gauge whether Bersani can form a government. If not, they'll have to call new elections at some point. Berlusconi is actually rising in new polls and would defeat Bersani in new elections, but Grillo might beat both of them. Renato Brunetta, head of the People of Liberty Party, Berlusconi's, said Pierluigi Bersani can consult whoever he wants, Alcoholics Anonymous, desperate housewives, but he has to realize that the real economy of our country risks the abyss if there isn't an agreement among the two main political forces, meaning Berlusconi and Bersani. So we'll learn a lot more tomorrow, probably on Thursday. The internet around the world has been slowed down in what security experts are describing as the biggest cyber attack of its kind in history. Spam House, a group based in both London and Geneva, which aims to help email providers filter out spam and other unwanted content, maintains a number of block lists, a database of servers known to be used for malicious purposes. So Spam House recently blocked servers maintained by Cyberbunker, a Dutch web host which states it will host anything with the exception of child pornography or terrorism-related material. So a spokesman for Cyberbunker said in a message that Spam House was abusing its position and should not be allowed to decide what goes and does not go on the internet. Spam House has alleged that Cyberbunker is in cooperation with criminal gangs from Eastern Europe and Russia. So consequently, the attackers from Cyberbunker are launching these massive denial of service attacks. So strong, according to Spam House, they are peaking at 300 gigabytes per second when attacks on most banks are at 50 gigabytes per second. So don't be surprised if your Netflix download is much slower, and I mean that seriously. North Korea cut a key military hotline between itself and South Korea, involving an industrial complex in the north that employs hundreds of workers from the south. I've seen this place, Kaesong Industrial Complex. You can see it with powerful binoculars from the DMZ. And a train goes out every day and takes the South Korean workers. It's the only major symbol left of cooperation between North and South Korea, is this industrial complex in the north that employs some South Korean workers for South Korean companies. So anyway, there are about 750 to 900 South Korean workers that go daily, and they work on shifts sometimes as much as 2 weeks. So they're not always coming back and forth every day. But the train line is evidently, what's also called a hotline, has been shut down. North Korea has done this in the past, in 2009, 2010, and it lasted about a week. But in the current environment, it's a little unsettling. North Korean state media said Tuesday that the country's military command had ordered rocket and artillery units to be on highest alert to strike bases on the U.S. mainland, Guam, Hawaii, and other targets. Everybody agrees North Korea does not have the ability to target the U.S. or probably Guam with long-range missiles, but they certainly have the ability with short and medium-range missiles to target the South Korea as well as Japan. So what will Kim do? I think he's going to take out a South Korean naval vessel like his father did a few years ago. In China, Hanoi claims China fired at a Vietnamese fishing boat last week in another South China Sea dispute. China, Vietnam, and other countries are embroiled in long-standing territorial disputes over parts of the South China Sea involving specifically the Spratly and the Paracel Islands, which are potentially mineral-rich. China has always claimed de facto control of the Paracels, which are more than 200 miles south of the Chinese island of Hainan. China seized it from South Vietnam in 1974. But more worrisomely, from the South China Morning Post, Greg Terode reports, he's a good one, a fully equipped PLA, People's Liberation Army, amphibious task force has reached China's southernmost claimed possession in the South China Sea. Understand, this is called the James Shoal. It's 80 kilometers from Malaysia, 1,800 kilometers from China's mainland. But China claims it. It, of course, claims virtually the entire South China Sea. Gary Lee, a senior analyst with IHS in London, said it was a surprisingly strong message, including one of China's largest troop carriers. In strong message in sending out this task force on such a new operational plan, or new operational role, is just a few ships here and there, but a crack amphibious landing ship carrying Marines and hovercraft. We've never seen anything like this that far south in terms of quantity or quality. It's hard to know whether it's just a coincidence, but it does seem to reflect President Xi Jinping's desire for more practical, operationally based exercises. I reported that to you last week. Remember, Xi's father was a 4-star general. Xi has great relations with China's military, and this is to be watched very, very closely. I'll be back with you tomorrow, Thursday. Take care.